Most people see a train at a crossing and think nothing of it, but American freight rail carries 40% of the nation's long-distance cargo, including food, fuel, cars, and chemicals. The public assumes these are stable, well-paid, blue-collar jobs. The reality is very different. Life for a freight rail worker means never truly being off the clock. Engineers and conductors sleep with one eye on their phone, waiting for the call that could come at any hour, day, night, holidays, birthdays. One missed call, and the consequences ripple through their lives. The job demands a kind of permanent readiness, where plans with family or time to rest can be wiped away by a single ring. There is no guarantee of when the next shift will start or how long it will last. Some workers describe eating dinner in silence, glancing at the clock, knowing that at any moment they might have just 90 minutes to drop everything and report to a rail yard miles away. For decades, paid sick days were out of reach. Getting sick did not mean staying home. It meant a choice: show up and work through illness, or risk discipline for taking an unscheduled day off. The fear of losing income, or even a job, often outweighed the risk of spreading the flu or working tired around heavy machinery. Tim Gilliam, a union steward with more than 30 years on the rails, puts it bluntly. Workers are expected to be available 100% of the time, covering for a workforce that is 30% smaller than it was a decade ago. You're a relay runner on a treadmill, he says, but the finish line keeps moving. This is not just a job, it is a constant test of endurance, where the cost of missing a call or needing a day to recover is measured in points, warnings, and sometimes termination. The fatigue is not just physical, it is the exhaustion of never being able to fully step away, never knowing when life will be interrupted next. The high visibility attendance policy, known as the 30-point system, landed on BNSF crews in February 2022 with the force of a new law. Every engineer and conductor started the year with 30 points. It was an invisible balance that would decide whether they kept their jobs. Points were not just numbers, they were lifelines. Miss a scheduled call-out without notice? Lose 4 points. Take an unapproved day for illness or family emergency? 3 points gone. Arrive more than 90 minutes after a call? That is another 2. Even missing a holiday shift cost a point. Restoring lost points was just as unforgiving. The only way back was to work 14 consecutive days without a single infraction. If a worker managed that, a handful of points would be restored. But one slip, one sick day, one late arrival reset the clock to 0. The policy memo spelled it out in plain language. Reach 0 points and termination is automatic. By the end of 2024, at least 23 employees had been fired for hitting the 30-point cap. 57 more were suspended after crossing lower thresholds, and countless others received formal warnings. The appeals process was narrow, a 24-hour window for informal review, 5 days for a written grievance, and a month to reach arbitration. Most never made it past the first step. Tim Gilliam, the union's local president, described it as the most punitive attendance regime he had seen in his 31 years. He testified, "It creates a culture of fear where you are punished for being human. You are expected to be available 100% of the time, covering a workforce that is 30% smaller than it was a decade ago." For many, the 30-point system did not just track attendance. It turned every decision, every headache, every family emergency into a calculation about whether they could afford to be absent or whether this time the railroad would take away their job. Hunter Harrison's name became shorthand for a new kind of railroad management, one that measured success in minutes, miles, and margins. In 2012, he brought precision scheduled railroading, known as PSR, to Union Pacific, promising to run freight trains with the regularity of a city bus. The idea was simple on paper. Fewer trains, each running on a strict schedule, each car accounted for, every asset working harder. Within a decade, the doctrine spread through all 7 Class I railroads, reshaping the industry from the inside out. The changes were sweeping. Between 2012 and 2022, railroads shut down 48 classification yards and 15 major maintenance shops. Crew sizes shrank, and the average train length stretched from about 6,500 feet to over 8,600 feet, nearly 2 miles of steel, cargo, and responsibility riding behind a single engineer and conductor. A labor economist studying the shift summed it up. PSR did not just cut fat, it carved into the bone. Railroads eliminated around 45,000 jobs, about 15% of the workforce, while the total volume of freight barely changed. The same amount of cargo moved, but with far fewer people and far longer trains. This operational overhaul was not just about numbers. As yards closed and crews dwindled, the work left for those who remained became relentless. The network lost its flexibility. Missed connections or delays in one part of the system could snarl traffic for days. Workers faced mounting pressure to keep up, with overtime hours up nearly 27% and fatigue-related safety incidents on the rise. The promise of efficiency came at a human cost, one measured in lost jobs, longer hours, and a growing sense that the rails themselves were being stretched to the breaking point. Railroad executives have made their priorities clear in black and white. Over the past 5 years, the nation's largest freight railroads have returned an average of $18 billion each year to shareholders through stock buybacks and dividends. Union Pacific, CSX, Norfolk Southern, and BNSF's parent company, Berkshire Hathaway, all report these payouts in annual SEC filings. In 2021 alone, Union Pacific bought back $7.3 billion in shares. CSX and Norfolk Southern each spent more than $3 billion a year on buybacks, while BNSF's owner distributed billions of dollars in dividends to investors. During this same period, spending on wages, benefits, and new hiring barely budged, rising less than 5% despite mounting operational demands. The workforce shrank by tens of thousands, but the cash flowing out to Wall Street kept growing. Railroads closed yards and shops, stretched trains longer, and pressed a smaller workforce to do more with less. The efficiency doctrine that drove these changes was not just about running a tighter operation. It was about extracting as much capital as possible and funneling it to investors, even as the system's human core was hollowed out. The contrast is stark. While workers faced relentless pressure, unpredictable hours, and the threat of discipline for missing a call, corporate boards approved ever larger buyback authorizations. The money that might have gone to paid sick days, safer staffing levels, or modernized equipment instead became a windfall for shareholders. For the people running the trains, the message was unmistakable. Profits come first, and those on the front lines are expected to pick up the slack, no matter the cost. In September 2022, the threat of a nationwide rail strike brought the country's supply chain to the brink. Engineers, conductors, and yard workers from every major union stood together, demanding a basic right that most Americans take for granted: paid sick leave. The contract on the table offered a modest pay raise, about 3% a year, but left the core issue untouched. Workers would still have to choose between coming in sick or risking their jobs under the strict attendance system. As the strike deadline loomed, Congress stepped in, invoking its authority under the Railway Labor Act. Lawmakers imposed a settlement, forcing unions to accept the deal without the guaranteed sick days they had fought for. The message was clear: keep the trains running, no matter the cost to those who run them. In the aftermath, union leaders warned that the decision would only deepen the exodus of experienced crews, leaving the rails more vulnerable than ever. For every 5 experienced rail workers who leave, only about 2 new hires make it through the door. The numbers aren't just a snapshot, they're a warning. Training a new engineer or conductor can take anywhere from 18 months to 3 years. but the pipeline can't keep up with the wave of retirements and resignations. As the workforce thins, the strain grows heavier for those who remain. Federal Railroad Administration surveys show fatigue is now a constant companion on the rails. Reports of near-miss incidents and crew-related injuries have risen sharply, with a 12% jump in fatigue-related accidents since 2023. Regulators have issued multiple advisories calling out the risks of chronic understaffing and relentless schedules. The message from Washington is blunt. The system is running on borrowed time. Even as railroads tout efficiency, the human cost is mounting. Fewer hands, longer hours, and a network that grows less resilient with each passing month. Today, rail workers remain on call every hour of every day, expected to cover a 30% staffing gap with just 90 minutes notice and no guaranteed sick leave. The system's breaking point isn't distant, it's now. The real question is, who pays the price when the trains stop running? Share your thoughts below.